Hi, I'm Dave Kale. Welcome to this Christian Business Insights podcast show where my goal is to provide you with practical, actionable ideas to help you create businesses and careers of excellence and at the same time multiply your influence for the kingdom. I have been a Christian in business for over 30 years, and I have personally and contractually consulted with over 500 different sales organizations. So in these podcasts, I combine the lessons that I have learned with an out-of-the-box experience and perspective on Christianity that you will find challenging. And we put that together to provide you with practical insights and ideas that you can use to live better and lead better. Welcome to the journey. Hi, this is Dave. So what one thing in your sales efforts that, if changed and improved, would make the quickest and biggest improvement in your sales revenue? What's the one thing? Now, that's a question that I have learned to ask whenever I get involved with a client company. So first a little background. I've been a sales consultant for 30 plus years. I've personally and contractually worked with over 500 different sales organizations, and I've interacted with thousands of other sales organizations through association conferences, speaking engagements, seminars, webinars, etc. Regardless of the size of and the business model, regardless of that, everything from solopreneurs, individuals who hang a shingle, to $8 billion international companies, I've done them all. They have one thing in common. They all wanted a quick and measurable return on their investment in me. So the consistent pressure to bring quick and dramatic results has, over the years, honed my approach and fostered the development of principles and processes and tools that brought about those results. So out of all this, I've developed this observation. By the way, this is one of the 25 most important lessons I've learned. It's this: regardless of the type of business, the size of business, the market served, or the business model, regardless of any of that, almost every B2B seller has at least one place in the sales system where a little bit of time, thought, and resources can make a disproportionate impact on the sales performance. One place. I call this the primary sales obstacle. Unfortunately, that primary sales obstacle is too often hidden from the current management and often takes an outsider to identify it. Now, there's some pretty significant reasons why most people can't see their own primary sales obstacles. So here's a number of them. Number one, history. And it's because this is the way it's always been done. And since the process or the principle is habitual, no one stops to question if it's the best way to do it. They don't even notice it. So it remains outside of the radar screen. So number one, why do we have primary sales obstacles, and why are they hidden? Well, because of history. Number two, because of ego. And I see each of these. The person responsible for sales sees the outside consultant as a threat and shores up his defenses, protecting anything that might be improved, because he or she sees that as an insult to themselves. So ego keeps a lot of primary sales obstacles hidden. Here's another one: overwhelmed. The principals and management is just too busy working in the business to take care of the time and objectivity that is warranted for them to work on the business. So broken processes and faulty policies and procedures linger on because no one gives them the attention. They're just too overwhelmed. Here's another one: personal agendas. There are often some individuals within the organization who have created comfortable situations for themselves based on the status quo. Oh, I'd love to get into this one. But to threaten the status quo means that their comfortable worlds may be attacked. I can't tell you how many times I've seen someone with a personal agenda that holds everything back. And here's the last one of my list of reasons why primary sales obstacles are hidden from current management, and that's ignorance. They just don't know a lot about sales systems or sales management or producing greater results from the people and system in their organization. So they go forward with less than effective systems, less than effective people, simply because they don't know any better. While every company is different, over the years I've seen certain patterns develop. Chances are you may have one or more of these common primary sales obstacles. So here are some typical examples for each of three business models. So we're going to look at each of three business models, and I'm going to tell you the most common primary sales obstacle to that business model. So first is a solopreneur. That's number one. Then we're going to look at a small sales force with a CEO as sales manager. This is typically a CEO's got 2, 3, or 4 salespeople. And then the third instance is a larger sales force that has multiple levels of sales management. Okay? So first let's look at the solopreneur. And so if you're a solopreneur, you're often caught up in the ebb and flow of sales activities. In other words, you spend a lot of time in business development, and your efforts eventually are rewarded. Business begins to grow. And when that happens, you neglect your sales efforts to take care of the work you've gained. And since you neglect the sales efforts, future business hurts, and in a few months you're back to where you started from. Ebb and flow, ebb and flow, ebb and flow. And while some progress can be made with a disciplined schedule approach to investing your time, that's a Band-Aid covering the real issue. The real issue is that you often like doing the work, and you don't so much like doing the sales of the work. So you keep thinking, if you could just find someone to sell for you, if you could just find that, business would really grow. So you started this business because you like doing the work, not selling your services. Unfortunately, and again, this is going to fly in the face of a lot of things you might be thinking. But it's one of the 25 biggest lessons I've learned. The solution lies in the opposite direction. You're almost always, whether you like it or not, you are almost always the best person to sell your services. So if you're going to grow your business in the short term, you need to invest more time in sales. Now, hiring your first salesperson is a high-risk, costly effort that will almost always fail. And I know you're thinking, well, oh no, that's not true for me. It is. I mean, come back and see me 2 or 3 years after you've hired 2 or 3 salespeople and none of them worked out. And you spend thousands of dollars and hundreds of hours, then come back and see me again. See, it's far easier to hire someone, even a part-timer, to take care of some of the administrative load off of you than it is for you to invest more and more time, regular time in sales. So what's the solution? Hire an administrative person, not a salesperson. Hire an administrative person so you can spend more time in sales. That's a short-term solution until you get to the point where you just absolutely can't do it anymore. Then let's talk about the next step. But the first step for you is hire an admin person to take the administration off of you so that you can spend more time in sales, because you are the best person to sell your business. So if you can free up your time to spend more of it in sales, you'll find your business growing like you had hoped. Hiring your first salesperson can wait a year or so. It's going to be traumatic and difficult, so hold it off. That's a solopreneur. How about a small sales force with the CEO as sales manager? So the biggest issue here, most common primary sales obstacle, is a lack of sales leadership. The CEO, since he or she has far more to do than manage salespeople, operates under the assumption that the salespeople can manage themselves and trust them to be effective and make decisions in the best interests of the company. And while that may be occasionally true, the far more typical situation is that the salespeople default to comfortable habits and routines and don't tap into the potential of their customers. They suffer from lack of leadership, from lack of direction, and from lack of accountability. That's the biggest issue for small sales forces. And so the solution, what's the solution? Well, let's train the CEO in certain core sales management routines. So here, we often recommend our sales leaders excellence and influence course, where we teach a sales management system. And it's designed to allow a non-salesperson like a CEO or a branch manager or someone like that to lead a sales force with minimal time and investment and in a way that does not impinge on the CEO's time. So my solution is going to be, I'm sorry, this is a sales pitch. Take the Sales Leaders Excellence and Influence course. I'll put a link in the show notes. We teach it once a year. It's coming up. That's the solution. Honestly, that is the solution for CEOs with 2 or 3 salespeople. Okay? Now, let's go to larger sales forces. This is the sales force of, anywhere from 10 to 200. As the sales force grows, the problems become more complex, of course. There are typically lots of initiatives that can make a difference. So it gets complex at this level. Typically, the things that we do to make a difference, that attack the primary sales obstacles, revising the sales compensation plan, it's a big one. Training the sales managers, that's another one. Instituting an ongoing sales development program, in other words, training and educating the sales force on an ongoing basis. Creating a process to hire more effective salespeople. I mean, all of these are initiatives that we often implement in a company in a larger sales force. And while these can have a significant impact, this post is about the primary sales obstacles. And in most B2B sales forces, that means the salespeople are not spending their time wisely. So if I could predict one primary sales obstacle in a large sales force, it would be that. The salespeople are not spending their time wisely. They spend too much time on prospects and customers that, frankly, are just not worth it. And so they're not investing their time where it will get the biggest return on investment. Instead, they have developed comfort zones and routine behaviors in customer relationships. So that brings me to the single most impactful initiative. And that is this: to create and implement a system that ranks accounts and customers by their potential and direct the salespeople to spend more of their time on the high potential and less on the lower. Now, if you can pull this off, you can expect a dramatic improvement in sales within 6 to 10 months. Let me repeat it. This is the thing to do. The larger sales force that you think is not producing the way it could. Create and implement a system that ranks accounts and customers, so prospects and customers, both, by their potential, not by their history, by their potential. And then, so first you got to rank them, and then direct the salespeople to spend more of their time on the high potential and less on the lower potential. When we do that in a sales force, we can see dramatic improvements in sales, typically 6 months or so, plus or minus. Now, having said that, it's more difficult than it sounds. There's lots of details that can trip you up. For example, most companies will, in a knee-jerk response, rank customers who bought the most last year and call them high potential. That's an exercise in the irrelevant and will derail the initiative by investing your time in the wrong approach. Now, we have developed a system for any B2B seller to direct the salespeople to highest potential accounts. If you want to read it, Chapter 6 in my book, 11 Secrets of Time Management for Salespeople, describes it from the salesperson's point of view. From the sales manager's point of view, I do a webinar from time to time in which I teach the system to sales leaders and implement it for their sales forces. So if you're interested in learning our system, then just reply info@davekale.com, info@davekale, and apply to info@davekale.com and ask to be put on the webinar list, and we'll put you on the list for the webinar. Okay, that's it. We're done. Bye-bye.